Mr. Nevinson, Jessie and I were hearing the flute, and we knew why. The curse of the dead Dutchman, Meneer Voorman, had fallen upon us who had touched the manuscript. Shortly after, Mr. Nevinson told me about his terrible experience in which he saw Meneer Voorman and felt a compulsion, which he barely resisted, to follow his spectral figure. We met Adina, the sister of Matilda. Matilda, you will recall, was the woman of Patois, the man in whose keeping the manuscript was. It was our guess that she had touched it too, before passing it on to Mr. Nevinson. Hence the strange way she met her death in my bones and my flute. Patworth's cottage did not differ greatly in appearance from the others dotted at intervals along the bank at Horston Land. As Rayburn pointed the bow of the boat towards it, we saw a grey unpainted wooden structure with the usual truly palm leaf roof. It stood in a clearing that seemed larger than those of the other homesteads, and there were one or two coconut palms and a mango tree, as well as provision patches. An Indian Creole was drawn up against the bank, and a woman was shooing off chickens near the cottage. She was short and squat and attired in what looked like a cotton dress of faded blue. Her coffee complexion, high cheekbones, and long black hair removed any doubt as to her race. "That's the other buck woman I tell you about, sir," said Rayburn. "She's Matilda's sister. She named Adina, and I hear she bring her 2 children and living in the cottage. Her husband gone higher up the river to bring down a raft of crabwood." "He has he?" said Mr. Nevinson. "He's in the timber business too, then?" "Oh, yes, sir. He sell us 1 or 2 rafts of moor only last week, but he don't go in for it too regular. He little lazy, you know, and I hear he very fond of the bottle, always on the spree." The woman approached the edge of the bank as we drew alongside, her face sheepishly smiling and curious. We could hear the voices of her 2 children, but could not see them. They seemed to be playing in the rear of the cottage. I had brought my sketching book and pencil, for the reason we had given Rayburn for our coming was that I wanted to make a few sketches preliminary to painting my pictures for the company. Mr. Nevinson had added, too, as a secondary pretext, that he wanted to have a look over old Patworth's cottage and sympathize with the sister of the dead woman. No sooner had we jumped ashore when Mr. Nevinson began to angle to get Jessie and Rayburn out of the way. The woman greeted us shyly, showing teeth that were far decayed, and after Mr. Nevinson had introduced himself and the rest of us, he asked her whether she would let Rayburn pick a few young coconuts. "The missy at home asked me to get some for her, Adina," he said. She agreed readily, of course, and Mr. Nevinson smiled at her and said, "Thank you, Adina. Rayburn, will you just see if you can get them for me while the rest of us potter around the cottage here?" Then Jessie saved her father any further essays in guile by exclaiming, "I'll go and watch Rayburn pick them, Daddy. I can do with a water coconut." She and Rayburn went off, and Mr. Nevinson said to Adina, "I hear you're the sister of Matilda, who used to live with Patois, Adina?" "Yes, sir." "Matilda died a few days ago, didn't she?" "She did, yes, sir." "What happened? How did she die?" "She get drowned, sir." By further questioning, we discovered from her that Matilda had heard the flute since the day after Patworth's death, and had begun to see a white man beckoning at her the day before she herself died. "She just walked one afternoon straight into the river and drowned herself," said Adina, in her low, barely audible voice. And yes, she replied to more questioning. Matilda had opened the canister after Patois died, and taken out the piece of paper in it, but seeing that it was not money, she had put it back and given the canister to Rayburn to give Mr. Nevinson, as the dead man had requested. At this point I asked, You yourself didn't touch the paper, did you? Me, sir? No, sir. Me not trouble it.
You don't know who it is that gave the canister to Patwar, do you? Asked Mr. Nevinson,
and Adina shook her head and replied, No, sir. Me no know nothing about it. First time me see the canister was when Matilda take it from under the bed when Patwar dead.
And look here, about Matilda's getting drowned. Tell us something more. You say you didn't actually see her walk into the water.
No, sir, but I know she walk in, because the afternoon before she said the white man's spirit call from the water at her. It called her to come in the water and get drowned, and she says she had to turn away her face and hold on tight to the doorpost, or she would have go.
How did you know that she drowned herself, Adina? Said Mr. Nevinson. I mean, did you hear her cry out?
Yes, sir. Me was planting in the cassava fields when me hear she call out. She call, Adina, Adina, the spirit call me in the river, a going. And I hear a splash. And by the time I run to the bank and I look, I don't see she nowhere. But the water circle all the time like somebody just get drowned.
I see. And up to now the body hasn't been found, huh?
Not yet, sir. My cousin and his brother been out all yesterday and this morning in a Creole searching, but they don't find it yet.
It's now 3 days since she's been missing, huh?
Yes, sir. Today, Thursday. It was Monday when it happened. We heard Jessie calling and turned our heads. Daddy! Milton! She appeared, beckoning at us. Rayburn wants to show you something.
What the devil could Rayburn want to show us? Muttered Mr. Nevinson. We'd better go, Milton. Adina, you'll excuse us a moment, will you?
We moved towards where the coconut palm stood. A pile of nuts lay on the ground, and Jessie had evidently disposed of 2 already, for their shells gaped wide near the base of the tree. Rayburn had moved away from the spot, and we saw him standing about 50 yards to the west near a bed of eddowes. He was shading his eyes with his hands and peering at something in the sky. Rayburn, what's the matter? I called. He came to us at once, his manner puzzled. Sir, I see some carrion crows circling just over yonder there. Look and you'll see for yourself. I wonder if some dead thing not in the bush by the little creek what run past not far from here.
And what of it? Probably the carcass of some animal.
Yes, sir, but it would be worth looking about. It could be Matilda's body the tide wash up into the creek.
You think so? Said Mr. Nevinson. Perhaps we'd better investigate.
How far is the creek from here? I asked. About half-mile, sir. A track over there we could take.
Very good, said Mr. Nevinson. Let's go. Jessie, I think you'd better remain with Adina until we return.
She seemed uncertain, then nodded. All right, I'll wait here. I don't like seeing dead bodies. I didn't know a woman got drowned. When did this happen?
On Monday. Adina's sister Matilda.
We left her and we began to make our way along a rough track that wound its way through the jungle to the south of the clearing. It evidently ran parallel with the river, for every now and then, through a break in the dense foliage and the trunks of palms, I would catch a glimpse of black water. We must have covered half the distance when the sound of voices became audible ahead of us. Then there came into view the dwarfed figures of 2 Indians in shirt and shorts. Between them they bore something bulky. A few seconds later we found ourselves gazing upon the body of Matilda. Mr. Nevinson, upon an instant's examination, exclaimed,
But this woman didn't die from drowning.
Look, she isn't in any way bloated. Yes, sir, same thing me and John say, agreed one of the 2 Indians who we had discovered were the dead woman's cousins. Horrified and wincing, I noted that they were right. The corpse showed no signs of having been immersed at all. though the pinkish cotton frock did have a crinkly appearance of having dried after a drenching. "We find her lying high on the bank of the creek, sir," said the Indian called John. He was a bright, alert fellow, and not like the usual run of bucks. "She was flat on her stomach. Her face was buried in the leaves. The crows was just beginning to trouble her, but they only managed to peck at her foot and her hand. They couldn't get at her face. We just reached in time." They had been searching along the river bank during the past few days, John explained, because they had thought that she had been drowned. It was only this morning it had occurred to them to try hunting about in the bush in the vicinity of the creek, and the circling carrion crows had made them suspicious. Suddenly, something on the corpse arrested my attention. "What's that mark on her leg?" I asked, pointing. John pushed aside the skirt a trifle, exposing more of the right thigh than had already been exposed. Bending over the gruesome thing, we saw that there was some kind of wheal on the fleshy part just above the knee. In silence we kept peering at it. It was about 8 or 10 inches in length by about 1 inch in width, and spaced along it at regular intervals, dark round spots were apparent, these within the greyish blueness of the wheel itself. Rayburn exclaimed, But sir, that's a funny mark. It looked just like if somebody brand her with a flute." Events were grinding to the ultimate climax in the terrible adventure I've come to call My Bones and My Flute.